Good evening. The Lawrence Alliance for Education Board meeting for February 14th will now come to order. The time is 6:05. Maria, would you please take attendance?
Dr. Dolores Calaf,
Present.
Edgar de Leon,
Present.
Arlene Garcia,
Present.
Ms. Juana Matias, Maria Muller, Mayor Brian De Peña, Chair Patricia Mariano.
Present. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There are no items for executive session this evening, so we'll move on to public participation. The board welcomes public comment at this time. We will call people in the order they signed up. As you begin, please state your name and address for the record. Each person is permitted to speak for no more than 2 minutes. A bell will ring when you have 30 seconds remaining, and again at the end of the 2 minutes. I ask that you please respect this limit. Profanity will not be tolerated. If used, we will turn off the microphone and the person will be asked to leave. I'd like to remind everyone that during public comment, the board is in listening mode, and as such, board members do not respond to comments. Written public comments may be emailed to lae@lawrence.k12.ma.us no later than 2 o'clock the afternoon of our meeting. We have signed up for public participation. Mr. Marley.
Humayun Mali, 53 Chester Street. Good evening, honorable members. If we want the best public school for our children, we must support our teachers' union. If we want the best future for our children, we must pay the best compensation to our teachers, paraprofessional, Lawrence Public School cafeteria workers. We must know building multi-million-dollar school does not make Lawrence Public School great. Lawrence Public School is great because of our excellent teachers, hard-working paraprofessional employees, and the cafeteria workers. Lawrence Public School, one of the best public schools in the nation. We declare the first day of the school the day of the appreciation of our great teacher and Lawrence Public School employees. Horace Mann said, the education indeed the most important societal equalizer. This great impact only possible if we support our teachers' union. Number one responsibility of every citizen in this great nation is support of the teachers' union, the triumphant progress of our city, and this great nation depend on our citizens defend the teachers' union and support of the teachers' union. In this academic year, we must improve our parental and community involvement in order to be the best partner in education of our children. Lawrence always is strong. Lawrence always unite. We are the best example of support of teachers' union. Lawrence teachers, you are number one. You are the most important reason for success of our public school. Thank you for excellent job and happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you, Mr. Marley. Let the record show that Juana Matias is joining us via Zoom. For my report this evening, I would like to welcome Sylvia Flowers and Eliana Pereira from the ALMA Advisory Group to share the community engagement report as well as the superintendent job profile. There will be opportunities for the board to ask questions and make edits necessary to the job profile at the end of the presentation. So at this time, good evening, Sylvia and Eliana. Thank you for being here, and we're looking forward to your report. I'm sorry?
We can't hear you, Sylvia. Mm-mm. Can you all hear me okay?
We can hear you, Liliana, but we can't hear
Awesome.
Sylvia.
Test, test, test.
There we go.
We got you, Sylvia.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and happy Valentine's Day to you, Board Chair Mariano, and to the members of the LAE. My name is Sylvia Flowers, and I am the project lead for Alma Advisory Group, and have had the pleasure of working with the subcommittee over the last month and a half on our superintendent search. I think I have permission to share my screen, and I will do that now. And let me know if you can see that.
We can see it.
Perfect. All right. Well, it gives us great pleasure to come back to you this month and share out what we heard from the community. Our agenda for the day is just to do a quick search update. And then we'll dive into the community engagement report, and then we hope to spend time getting your feedback and input on the job profile. Just to start us off, I'd love to have a member of the LAE read our shared goal and shared purpose.
Arlene, would you like to read that? Arlene Garcia will read that.
Certainly. Our goal is to recruit, screen, and select the next collaborative, inclusive, outcome-driven superintendent of Lawrence Public Schools. Our purpose is to lead a transparent superintendent search process, engaging as many people as possible, guided by input of the Lawrence staff, students, families, partners, leaders, and community, and designed to mitigate bias every step of the way.
Thank you so much. We'll continue to come back to this because this helps guide this process and our partnership with you all. Before we get started on the report, I definitely want to thank Superintendent Rodriguez and his team for all of the support, both on the logistics and scheduling for our site visit in January. Chief Operating Officer Odanis Hernandez was extremely helpful to us, as well as Director of Communications, Chris Markins, in getting the word out. So we just really want to send a shout out to Superintendent Rodriguez and his team for the support and welcome that they provided when we were on site. I wanted to share with you our revised superintendent search timeline. We have taken the month of January primarily for our stakeholder input. And here we are today, February 14th, reporting back to you and hoping that by the end of today's session, we will launch the job description and begin our active recruiting and selection process, which we anticipate will take place primarily through the months of February and March. And ideally, we will get to our finalist round by April, with the goal of having an offer extended and accepted between April and May. And I'll turn it over to Eliana, who's going to support with translation.
Queremos darle la bienvenida a todos. Gracias por la oportunidad de presentar el reporte. Le vamos a ofrecer una breve recapitulación de la información que contiene este reporte en español y también le vamos a proveer una grabación con el reporte completamente en español también que estará disponible. Acá tenemos el calendario con las actividades claves para la búsqueda del superintendente. Ahora le estamos reportando todo lo que hemos escuchado durante nuestras visitas en persona, también virtuales, y las encuestas que también teníamos abiertas para la comunidad. Entre este mes y el mes de abril empezaremos el reclutamiento, empezaremos el detallado, definir el proceso de selección y últimamente con la meta de completar la búsqueda aproximadamente en el mes de abril a mayo. Thank you, Sylvia.
And so just to give you a summary of where we are and what's coming next, to date, we have launched our communication strategy and our outreach to the community, including our community survey. We've had a number of virtual and in-person meetings, and we've drafted the job profile for your review. And as we mentioned, what's coming next is active recruiting for the role and the meat of the selection process.
Estamos reportando ahora que hemos realizado hasta el día de hoy toda la comunicación a la comunidad, el resumen de todas esas reuniones y estamos en el proceso de finalizar el perfil profesional del superintendente. Lo que viene ahora, como les comenté hace un momento, van a ser el reclutamiento oficial para candidatos y las entrevistas y selección de los candidatos.
So we want to dive into the community engagement feedback. And we have three primary ways that we want to ensure transparency and engagement of the community. The first is obviously setting the groundwork early on and providing multiple opportunities that are inclusive for people to participate. We've also provided accommodations for speakers of other languages, parents and students with disabilities, as well as offering childcare in our evening events. What we want to do is work very closely with the subcommittee to provide regular updates about the search to you all as LAE members, as well as to the broader community. And that includes updating our superintendent search website, where we'll post updates at key points in the search process. And then lastly, we will work together with the subcommittee to design the selection process, building on the priorities for our search and ensuring that we are able to engage community participation at or before the finalist stage.
Uno de los valores establecidos para por la Junta para este proceso fue asegurarnos de establecer un proceso que sea fundado en la transparencia durante todo el transcurso de esta búsqueda. Estamos haciendo esto en tres maneras. Una es empezar con la participación de la comunidad al principio del proceso. Estaremos también ofreciendo información a través de todos los meses que estaremos en este proceso para que la comunidad esté informada de todas las claves, facetas de la búsqueda. Y últimamente no solo proveerles oportunidades al principio, sino también al final del proceso para que tengan una oportunidad también de tener sus voces escuchadas en lo que estamos finalizando toda la búsqueda.
So in terms of our community conversations, we held in-person and virtual opportunities, both before we came in January, and then of course during our January 17th and 18th site visit. So we held a total of 62 meetings where we met nearly 400 participants, both in person and virtually.
Entre el mes de diciembre y enero completamos 62 reuniones y pudimos conocer casi 400 miembros de la comunidad de Lawrence. Estas reuniones fueron virtuales, también fueron en persona en enero cuando estuvimos allá en Lawrence. Estos números incluyen estudiantes, padres, empleados del distrito, miembros comunitarios, organizaciones comunitarias, líderes civiles y varios otros miembros y residentes de la comunidad.
The outcome of this is we received over 1,800 survey responses, again, from students, parents, staff, community members, and district partners. And as we mentioned on the previous slide, 62 in-person and virtual meetings and nearly 400 participants in those meetings.
En adición a las personas que pudimos conocer, también tuvimos la encuesta que abrimos en diciembre y estuvo abierta hasta enero. Creo que fue el 21 de enero cuando lo cerramos. Recibimos más de 1,866 respuestas, también que incluyen las voces de los estudiantes, empleados y miembros de la comunidad de Lawrence.
During those conversations, we asked a series of questions. Many of you were there with us for some of those meetings, so we won't read through these. We'll jump right into some of the results and what we heard.
Hay varias personas que estuvieron ahí con nosotros durante las reuniones, pero las 5 preguntas que utilizamos para esas reuniones incluyeron algunas que nos ayudaron a ver cuáles son las áreas fuertes que están marchando bien en el distrito, áreas que hay que mejorar y cuáles serían sus deseos para el entrante superintendente.
So as we mentioned, the survey generated over 1,800 responses, 1,866 to be exact, and this was representative of a range of community stakeholders. Primarily, parents and caregivers were the largest survey responses, but we also heard from nearly 300 students, as well as nearly 500 teachers, principals, central office, over 500 staff of the district. And in this, you'll see a little bit of overlap because people were allowed to select all that applied. So the numbers on the left don't add up to 1,866 because people could select more than one category. So parent plus employee or teacher plus resident, for example.
De la encuesta que generó más de 1,866 respuestas, representan las diversas partes de la comunidad de Lawrence. Nos complació mucho ver la variedad de miembros representados de la comunidad, incluyendo los estudiantes. Recibimos casi 300 respuestas de estudiantes. La gran mayoría de respuestas nos llegaron de padres y familiares del distrito, que nos agrada mucho ver. También escuchamos muchas perspectivas de los maestros de Lawrence también, que recibimos casi 500 maestros o empleados licenciados del distrito que sí terminaron la encuesta.
When we look at the race ethnicity breakdown of the survey responses, we saw that nearly 700 of responses were submitted in Spanish. For Alma, this is a record number of surveys completed in another language. We generally try to make all of our surveys accessible to the community that the district serves. And this was just a really outstanding number of participants for us. So we're really pleased with that. We saw about a quarter of the respondents were identified as Caucasian or white, and nearly 10% identified as African American, Afro-Caribbean, or Black, as well as Asian American or East Asian.
También dividimos información no solo por miembros de la comunidad, sino también por raza y etnia. para ver las diferentes perspectivas de la comunidad. Nos agradeció mucho ver la participación de nuestra comunidad de habla hispana. Recibimos casi 700 respuestas completamente en español, que es un récord para el equipo de nosotros. También vimos que, como detalló Silvia, hubo representación de la comunidad hispana, de la comunidad blanca, casi al 24%, y de la comunidad afroamericana o afrocaribeña, casi 10% de los que respondieron se identificaron con esa área.
So what did we hear? So first, I want to share a little bit about the context for the Lawrence public school system and the Lawrence community. And as you can see, I know some of these slides will be very wordy, and hope that you had a chance to preview them before today's meeting. But what we heard is that Lawrence is a resilient, caring, and very involved community that wants to maximize and strengthen the opportunities available for students, teachers, staff, leaders, and families. And many of the members of the community shared this as important context for an incoming leader to know and be able to navigate. First and foremost, we heard that there's a very strong and very involved political climate in Lawrence. And again, there's a rich history of resilience, diversity, mutual aid, and support. And that people are really committed to supporting families, and really that wraparound services and resources to families are essential for the success and stability of the students. Some of the things that we heard as positives were also potentially challenges as well. So school autonomy was frequently touted as a strength, but also posed some challenges. And you'll see some quotes from some of the folks that we heard from. And then also there were differing perspectives about the benefits and challenges of state receivership. While folks expressed a desire to come out of state receivership, there were others who noted that with receivership, there's a little more leverage to run the district without some of the red tape and bureaucracy. So we wanted to call that out specifically as some things. There was a little tension both with school autonomy and as well as the perception on receivership.
Durante casi todas nuestras conversaciones, continuamos de escuchar varios temas que surgieron como contexto que es importante de integrar en este proceso. Lo que escuchamos es que, claro, la comunidad de Lawrence es bien resiliente, atenta y bien pendiente de las oportunidades que son disponibles para fortalecer el bienestar de los estudiantes, de los empleados y de la comunidad de Lawrence. Hay como 5 temas que surgieron entre eso. Uno es sobre el clima político y la influencia política que hay en el distrito. También hay que entender, ¿verdad?, que la comunidad de Lawrence es bien unida, bien calurosa, que hay un sentido bien familiar entre Lawrence. Y también escuchamos que hay muchos recursos y muchas organizaciones que son necesarias para el beneficio y el bienestar de los estudiantes y las familias de Lawrence. En adición, también escuchamos 2 temas donde habían muchas diversas de opiniones y opiniones fuertes. Una que era sobre la autonomía de las escuelas y la otra que tiene que ver con el receivership o la administración estatal del distrito.
As you know, we always start the conversation trying to learn as much as we can about the strengths of Lawrence. And so as we talk to the constituents in the community, first and foremost, Lawrence has a number of dedicated and caring educators and staff who are committed to the success of this district. We also heard from students, and these students were just amazing, as you all know. They ranging from, middle school, 5th graders, all the way up to high school. They care about their future and they want to be heard, and they had a lot to say. One of the other things that was noted as a strength is the amount of professional development for new teachers and the expansion over the last few years of professional development for other roles. Again, as I mentioned before, the history of school autonomy and this evolving earned autonomy model was also touted as a strength. There are many, many strong community partners and community organizations who want to support the students and families in the Lawrence community. One of the other things that was noted as a strength was the development of the diversity of the pipeline of educators. Is specifically the pipeline to the paraprofessional role that I think has been in place for over 5 years was touted as a strength, as well as some of the new programs to convert those paraprofessionals into licensed educators as well. So that commitment was noted as a strength. The Family Resource Center and the school-based parent liaisons was also something that was noted as a strength, particularly making sure that schools were staffed with parent liaisons who could speak in the native languages to the families for meetings and provide translation and support with any other issues was also really important and definitely something that people want to see protected and even expanded. And then there were many emerging programs and practices that have been implemented to support literacy, particularly the work around the science of reading, special education, and some of the programming for multilingual students. I think what we heard is that before the programs might have been specific to certain school locations, and now some of these programs are available in the neighborhood school so that parents don't have to transport or get kids to another part of town.
Empezamos nuestras reuniones siempre buscando los temas que nos ayudan a ver las áreas que hay que celebrar, que hay que defender y proteger en las escuelas y en el trabajo que está haciendo el distrito. Lo primero que escuchamos es el apreciamiento y el valor que tienen los estudiantes con los maestros y los profesores que son bien atentos y el personal que es bien entregado a su profesión y al servicio al estudiante. Los estudiantes de Lawrence son fenomenal. Tuvimos la oportunidad de conocer niños desde el 5º grado hasta los high school, los recién llegados. Y de verdad tienen una serie de estudiantes increíbles, bien dedicados a su futuro y quieren ser escuchados, quieren ser parte activo de este proceso. Escuchamos también otro tema sobre el valor y el desarrollo que está poniendo el distrito en el entrenamiento profesional que están recibiendo, particularmente los maestros nuevos y que están ampliando esos servicios para poder entrenar más educadores, más profesionales en las escuelas. Escuchamos el valor que ven particularmente los principales, la autonomía escolar y la evolución de ese modelo de autonomía adquirida. También escuchamos mucho sobre la colaboración con organizaciones comunitarias para apoyar las escuelas y las familias. Fue otro tema muy importante. El sexto tema que escuchamos es sobre el entrenamiento y los incentivos en particular para los paraprofesionales y educadores bilingües. También escuchamos mucho sobre el Centro de Recursos Familiares y todo el apoyo que están proveyendo a los familiares y a los padres allá en Lawrence. Y último, varias prácticas y programas que son emergentes en el distrito con conexión a la alfabetización, esa palabrita, la de educación especial y programas para asistir a los estudiantes multilingües.
And I wish I could read all of the quotes for you, but we're in the interest of time, we're gonna move through this so we can get to the job description. So opportunities for improvement. Certainly, we know that many people we spoke to wanted to talk about what needs to be improved. And there was a great deal of alignment across the community members about 8 key areas for improvement. The first was recruitment and retention. So building on that strength of diversifying the pipeline, the district needs to continue to recruit young multilingual staff and retain those teachers, as well as encouraging those teachers and staff to live in the community. Second, we heard a lot about safety and security, whether there's a perceived or real safety concern. That was noted by students, teachers, and the community as a real issue. This quote I thought was really salient in the fact that the district has moved to restorative practices, but haven't been particularly successful in following through on what it looks like at the school or district level. Next, we heard about communication. So increasing communication and transparency and access to information, particularly in the home language, was really important. We talked about the parent liaisons who are available now. It was noted that we need interpreters at all meetings so that people can feel included and that people can feel like they have access to information. Coordination and organizing the resources to address the mental health needs of students. This was noted by students as well as parents as a critical need to continue to support. And of course, we've heard this nationwide, this focus on mental health for our students.
De las prioridades para mejorar el distrito, escuchamos también 8 temas que se elevaron entre todas las reuniones que tuvimos. La primera tiene que ver con la contratación y retención de personal, claro, para los maestros en particular, pero en varias áreas, incluyendo esos que apoyan a los estudiantes multilingües y estudiantes que reciben servicios de educación especial. Escuchamos mucho sobre la necesidad de mejorar la seguridad en la escuela y es una perspectiva que, si es percibida o es real, fue consistente entre todas las reuniones que tuvimos. Un ejemplo de un miembro de la comunidad que habló con nosotros dijo que el distrito ha contribuido mucho en introducir las prácticas restaurativas, pero necesariamente no han podido tener mucho éxito en la implementación de esas prácticas, por ejemplo. Otra área es la comunicación inclusiva y el acceso a la información en la lengua materna de la comunidad. Todavía no siempre hay oportunidad de ver si hay traducción o intérpretes disponibles. El último tema que está acá en la pantalla es sobre la coordinación y organización de los recursos para mantener y atender a las necesidades de salud mental, particularmente para los estudiantes, que es algo que hemos visto en toda la nación, no solo en Loren.
And wanted to note those last 4 opportunities for improvement. People talked about some of the great things happening, particularly middle school sports, but also they wanted to see more of those, more opportunities for either before and after school extracurricular activities, and making sure that students can access those opportunities by providing transportation if possible. Second, there are a lot of organizations who want to support the students and families and really looking for that alignment and coordination to ensure that those partnerships are equitable and accessible across all of the schools and representative of the needs of the various neighborhoods in the community. We heard a lot about human resources and the need to improve the capacity of the human resources team and the support for principals and school leaders. And then lastly, continuing to increase the resources and access to services like inclusion for students with disabilities and multilingual learners and newcomers at all schools. So some of the quotes there were particularly salient. You know, our SPED teachers have a caseload that is as large as a gen ed teacher. The teacher is sharing the smaller classroom with another teacher. It is not creating a safe space for students. We are just getting to the place where services are offered at all schools, but we're still triaging services.
En términos a las últimas cuatro áreas o prioridades para mejorar el distrito, una que escuchamos es la necesidad de aumentar las opciones de actividades extracurriculares como los before care, after care, y tener más acceso para los estudiantes, incluyendo transportación, que es muy importante. Otra área que escuchamos también es mejorar la coordinación de servicios con las asociaciones o organizaciones que están proveyendo servicios comunitarios en las escuelas. Escuchamos también mucho detalle sobre la necesidad de mejorar la función en la Oficina de Recursos Humanos, HR, y proveerle más apoyo a los directores escolares, simplificando el proceso, aclarando, modernizando los varios sistemas para contratar personal. El último tema de mejoría que escuchamos es sobre los recursos y el acceso a servicios como la inclusión para los estudiantes con discapacidades, alumnos multilingües y los estudiantes recién llegados a las escuelas acá a los Estados Unidos. Un ejemplo de una de las cosas que nos dio un maestro fue, por ejemplo, nuestros profesores de educación especial tienen una carga de trabajo tan grande como los de educación general. Un profesor tendrá que compartir la misma aula una aula más pequeña con otro profesor. No se está creando un espacio seguro para los estudiantes, como un ejemplo.
So just jumping into what we heard on the survey, this is very consistent with what we saw and heard in our community gatherings and in-person and virtual meetings. But we asked survey respondents to rank or to identify the top 5 priorities for the next superintendent. And what you see here is all respondents on the left-hand side, parent and caregiver, which, as we mentioned, made up the majority of the survey responses, and then students and licensed employees. And so in the top 2 was investing in social, emotional, and behavioral health resources for students. So that showed up across the board as the highest priority for all stakeholder groups, with the exception of students. The second priority was prioritizing and improving student academic performance. And we saw that across all stakeholder groups. Students ranked preparing them for careers and college as their top. So I think closely related to improving academic performance, but students were clearly thinking about their futures. And then also in top 3 was expanding enrichment opportunities for students. So that, again, consistent with what we reported on the previous slide, these 3 areas showed up in the survey as well. What you see in blue in the lower right-hand corner is clearly you can see the teacher's perspective is around recruiting and retaining a diverse staff and increasing communication between the district office, communities, and schools. So not surprising that that's top of mind for teachers.
En esta página le estamos detallando las prioridades basadas en la respuesta que recibimos a la encuesta. Ahí le preguntamos a las personas que por favor nos clasifiquen las 5 prioridades más importantes para el próximo superintendente. Había una lista como de 13 o 14 opciones y estas son las 5 más importantes. En verde está la número 1, a través de grupos. Entonces, en la primera hilera tienen todos los que fueron encuestados. En la segunda, los padres. En la tercera, lo que dijeron los estudiantes. Y en la cuarta, los profesores o empleados del distrito. Acerca de las áreas, hubo mucha consistencia entre las prioridades más importantes, con las tres más importantes siendo asegurar más inversión y recursos para la salud mental y social de los estudiantes, mejorar el rendimiento académico y ampliar las oportunidades de enriquecimiento para los estudiantes. Hay dos áreas que tenemos acá en azul en las respuestas de los maestros que están conectadas, o como indicamos hace un poco rato, a lo que es todo conveniente con la contratación y la retención de personal, y aumentar más transparencia en la comunicación entre la oficina central y la comunidad. Y claro, tiene mucho sentido que eso es algo importante para los miembros del equipo del distrito.
I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because I definitely want us to get to the job profile itself. But when we look at that same question broken down by race or ethnicity, we see a similar trend to the previous slide, where the top three are around those social, emotional, and behavioral health resources across our Latinx, white, and African American respondents. Of course, recognizing that our Hispanic American and Latinx respondents make up the majority of our survey. The second being the prioritizing and improving student academic performance, as well as expanding those enrichment activities. And, the recruiting and retaining staff being that bucket that shows up for Caucasian and white respondents is consistent with the teacher population that we noted previously.
En esta página tenemos la misma información, pero la dividimos por raza. La mayoría, obviamente, de todos los que respondieron, de los encuestados, son hispanos o latinos, pero queríamos ver si había diferencia entre estas prioridades por raza. Y vimos también muchas similaridades entre lo que vieron más importante, o las prioridades más importantes para ellos, en la inversión en los recursos de salud social y emocional de los estudiantes, mejorar el rendimiento académico y continuar ampliando los ofertas de enriquecimiento para los estudiantes. De nuevo, también hay un área azul acá con la población caucásica, los blancos, y tiene conexión también con la población de maestros, que son más blancos, y otra vez elevan la necesidad de enfocarse en la contratación y retención de personal diverso y bilingüe.
Wanted to just call out students before we dive into the job profile. We think it's really important that students, as your primary customer or stakeholder, have a voice in this process. We met with a number of middle school students as well as high school students. We were able to talk to nearly 70 students in person and then or virtually, and then we heard from nearly 300 students on the survey.
Tuvimos la oportunidad, y esto fue nuestra oportunidad favorita, de conectarnos con estudiantes. Como hablamos previamente, pudimos reunirnos con 68 estudiantes, y también casi 300 completaron la encuesta representando el gabinete del superintendente. Fuimos a Arlington Middle, a Nuestro Mundo, a varias escuelas, incluyendo Lawrence High, la Academia Unido, Oliver y Spark. Pero fue una gran experiencia poder pasarnos ese tiempo con ellos.
And just to call out the students again, what we heard from them in terms of the strengths and the things that they want to see protected is that sense of community within the schools. School is like a family to me. We meet new people through sports and other activities. They feel like their student voice is celebrated and honored in their schools. They said they're not shut down if they want to speak out. There's always someone to listen, and they give you that space to be heard. And then we heard at the high school that newcomers really appreciated the efforts that the school makes to welcome them into the community and help them make friends and join new activities. What they wanted to improve, students they want to know what happens in the real world. Almost every group talked about wanting to know things like budgeting and taxes and how to buy a house and how to run a business, right? Kids want to know how to make sense of all these subjects as it relates to their futures. They want to see, again, more student activities, more field trips, more sports, more enrichment activities. They also noted that they want to see consistent enforcement of policies. They have family members, relatives in other schools. They know that there might be different rules in other schools or different policies. And I think that's where this tension between school autonomy comes in, when people see different practices across the schools and they want to see a little more equity. The increase in mental health supports and services, again, we talked about that writ large. Students focused on that as well. The students talked about safety, strengthen the measures to promote and create safer schools. And then lastly, this was really interesting. We heard from not only students, but also parents about the quality of food in the cafeteria. We know we typically expect to hear this from students. I will say we heard it from parents as well. So they too are concerned about the quality of food and, you know, the number of options that reflect the community, that respect their culture and their traditions.
Tuvimos la oportunidad de reunirnos con varios estudiantes y quisimos elevar las opiniones de ellos en este proceso. Ellos nos contaron que lo que quieren proteger y continuar a mantener es ese sentido de comunidad que existe en varias de las escuelas del distrito. Los estudiantes describieron eso como un sentido como familiar. Ellos conocen a sus amistades de ahí y tienen muchas conexiones mutuamente. Ellos nos contaron que también sienten que se celebra mucho la voz de los estudiantes y de la comunidad en sus escuelas. Una de las cosas que nos ofrecieron es: aquí celebramos nuestra raza, nuestra cultura y nuestras etnias. Estamos todos juntos y celebramos nuestras diferencias. Otra área que escuchamos sobre los estudiantes que son recién llegados es que aprecian mucho el esfuerzo que hacen las escuelas para acogerlos en la comunidad y ayudarlos a ser amigos y a participar en actividades. Ahora, las áreas para mejorar que identificaron los estudiantes, y hemos ya tocado en varias de estas áreas, quieren más oferta de cursos adicionales que tienen más aplicación al mundo real. Quieren aprender sobre los impuestos, lo que es comprar una casa o alquilar un hogar, cómo dirigir un negocio. Esas son cosas que les interesa mucho aprender. Quisieran ver más ofrecimientos de actividades escolares como los deportes, más excursiones para visitar otras áreas y más días de celebración para los estudiantes juntos. Escuchamos también que ellos querían más aplicación coherente de la póliza. En particularmente, escuchamos mucho sobre las diferencias en las pólizas de disciplina. También escuchamos esto sobre los uniformes en las escuelas. Otra vez también tocaron en la necesidad de aumentar los servicios y el apoyo a la salud mental, reforzar las medidas para promover y crear escuelas más seguras, que también comentamos. Y otra área que siempre escuchamos de estudiantes es sobre la calidad de la comida y en particularmente ofrecer más opciones que reflejen la cultura de la comunidad. Y fue interesante porque los padres también eso nos comentaron. Thanks, Sylvia.
And then from parents, again, a lot of similarities, but wanted to point out, you know, some of the strengths that parents noted were around the increased collaboration and receptiveness to working with and listening to parents. The schools have been creating a more inclusive environment and the communication is increasing. We did hear that from a number of parents and community members. And I think parents, of course, noted that they do feel supported by the teachers, staff, and leaders. There is the recognition that there are great teachers and great leaders in the schools who have the tools to lead and who have the tools to lead this district. And then, of course, the community partnerships were noted again as a strength. And in terms of areas to improve, of course, parents want to improve the academic outcomes for students so that their futures are bright and that they will lead to successful and productive adults. The safety issue, parents definitely, there's a sense, whether it's perceived or real, that there are school safety issues, and especially things happening outside and around the perimeters of the schools. We heard things like speed bumps and need more crossing guards and fights happening off campus that, of course, maybe tensions started on campus, but those things bleed outside of the school, which contribute to this sense of safety and well-being being a concern. Again, we talked about this before, the supports for multilingual learners and students with IEPs and 504 plans. Some of the quotes here that stood out to us were around the turnaround times to get services for students being a challenge. While communication is improving, people definitely want to see that continue and be strengthened. And again, the food, as we mentioned, parents noted that as well.
También queremos elevar las voces de los familiares, de los padres en este proceso y las tres áreas que compartieron como áreas que hay que proteger incluyen la colaboración y receptividad para escuchar y trabajar con los padres. Ellos nos compartieron que han visto de verdad mucho mejoramiento en esta área. También compartieron con nosotros que los profesores, personal y los líderes son bien comprensivos y solidarios con los padres. Y último, que los servicios proveídos por las asociaciones comunitarias que la valoran mucho y aprecian mucho esos servicios y recursos. En términos del área de mejorar, también van a escuchar muchos temas similares, mejorar el rendimiento académico de los estudiantes y los programas como la educación técnica para que los estudiantes tengan más opciones y éxito en el futuro, mejorar la seguridad dentro y alrededor de las escuelas. También escuchamos mucho sobre los servicios de inclusión y apoyos adicionales para estudiantes multilingües o estudiantes que reciben servicios de educación especial o los programas 504 o 504s. Han visto mejoramiento, pero se necesita más esfuerzo en términos de la comunicación y la transparencia de información que reciben los padres. Y último, como le notamos, más opciones alimentarias de calidad y opciones que reflejen la cultura de la comunidad.
In the survey, and I'm going to just speed through these, in the survey, we had an open-ended response question that was, Lawrence Public Schools will be successful if we accomplish these three things within the next 5 years. Again, we saw very similar responses as what we heard in person and virtually as well. And we had another open-ended question. Is there anything else you would like to share about the search and selection of the next superintendent? And you can see here the number of people who wrote in an additional response. Of those, there were about 400 people who responded to this question, and many highlighted the need for someone who is knowledgeable about Lawrence and committed to becoming an engaged member of the community. And then again, communication, safety, discipline, behavior, and recruitment and retention. So consistent with a lot of the things we heard and that we mentioned before.
En estas dos páginas le estamos dando un resumen de dos preguntas que hicimos en la encuesta de texto abierto. En esta página están viendo la pregunta que que le preguntamos en la encuesta es, ¿algo más que quiere compartir sobre la búsqueda y selección del próximo superintendente? De los 1,866, 435 personas respondieron a esta pregunta y los temas que contribuyeron se alinean bastante con lo que escuchamos en otra parte de la encuesta y de las reuniones. Otra vez buscar un candidato que conozca bien a Lawrence y la comunidad, alguien que pueda de verdad centrarse en la contratación, el apoyo al personal del distrito, la necesidad de comunicarse y comprometerse a los padres y los familiares de Lawrence y la necesidad de mejorar en las áreas y las pólizas de disciplina, otra vez para ver más coherencia en esos sistemas.
All right. So what does all this mean for the job profile? How do we make sense of all of the things we heard? So this slide sort of synthesizes for us the characteristics of the next superintendent. So the Lawrence community wants an experienced educational leader who celebrates and embraces the diversity of the community, a leader who skillfully builds trusting relationships and fosters a safe and supportive environment for students, teachers, staff, and families through collaboration and transparency with a laser focus on continuous improvement and student-centered decision-making.
Toda esta información, thank you. Toda esta información nos ayuda entonces ahora a establecer lo que va a ser el perfil para el superintendente. De toda esa información, entonces podemos identificar las habilidades críticas para el próximo superintendente. Y empieza detallando de la forma que siguiente. La comunidad de Lawrence quiere un líder educativo que celebre y aprecie la diversidad de la comunidad, un líder que fácilmente crea relaciones de confianza y fomenta un ambiente seguro y apoyo a los estudiantes, a los maestros, personal y familias a través de la colaboración y la transparencia, un líder con un enfoque en la mejoría del rendimiento de los estudiantes y que tome decisiones basadas en los factores que favorecen a los estudiantes.
And you'll see on the bottom half of that slide some of the other descriptors that we want to call out. A leader who's culturally competent, open-minded, and appreciates the diversity of the community. A leader who fosters open dialogue and transparent communication and is responsive to feedback from students, parents, and staff. Is fully committed to creating a culture of trust and respect, regardless of differences. A leader who keeps the impact on students as the primary focus when making decisions. A leader who is deeply knowledgeable and has a track record, of success, improving academic and social emotional outcomes for students. An adaptable leader who is willing to explore and pursue innovative ways to address new and existing challenges. A leader who is active in promoting an inclusive environment that fosters a sense of being welcomed and valued, and a leader who provides the resources and support needed for all to excel.
Hay 8 calidades, ha sido un tema ese número, pero parte de las calidades críticas para el superintendente incluye a alguien que es culturalmente competente, que tiene una mentalidad abierta y aprecia la diversidad de la comunidad. Un líder que fomenta el diálogo abierto, la comunicación transparente y es receptivo a las opiniones de otros. Alguien que se compromete plenamente a crear un ambiente de confianza y respeto. Un líder que a la hora de tomar decisiones tiene como prioridad el impacto a los estudiantes. Alguien que posee profundo conocimiento y un historial de éxitos en la mejoría de los resultados académicos y socioemocionales de los estudiantes. Un líder que es bien adaptable, un líder que participa activamente en la promoción de un ambiente integrador que fomenta esa sensación de ser bienvenido y valorado en las escuelas, en el distrito, y un líder que proporcione los recursos y el apoyo necesario para que todos sobresalgan.
All right. And so we take all of this information and we create the job profile, broken down into the responsibilities for the job, what we call the what this person should be doing, and then the how. What are the competencies that will help this person be successful? And so you see here what we call the headlines for each of those descriptors. And then within the detailed job description, you'll see additional bullets that describe, for example, what does it mean to be an effective relationship builder and two-way communicator? What does that look like? So I want to pause here and ask you to pull up the job description document.
Sylvia,
Yes.
could we pause for a moment and take some questions from the board
Yes.
in relation to the report?
Absolutely, absolutely. And definitely we're curious about what surprised you, what resonated with you, what questions you have.
All right, I'm going to open it up to the board at this time for questions. No questions? Arlene? No.
I have a quick one. I apologize if somebody else was going first, but I think for everyone that works in the board, there's an overwhelming sense of want and need to separate Lawrence from receivership, but it seems like that's not necessarily coming up in the reporting that you guys did.
I would say that we heard, mixed feelings about that. We definitely heard from stakeholders that it is a priority to get out of receivership and for this next leader to be the person that puts that transition plan in place. But we also heard that there have been some flexibilities that being in receivership granted. So we just wanted to note the duality of that comment, those comments across constituents.
And I appreciate the question, which is why it didn't fit neatly within a strength or an opportunity. And we decided to move it into the broader context that's important to know and understand as part of the search, because there were definitely very passionate, but very differing views on that question. Thank you I hope that answered your question, Edgar.
It did. Thank you.
Any other questions, Edgar?
No, not on my end.
We all set?
And those were the two, like school autonomy came up as a strength, but also this idea of autonomy with guardrails, right? Or what creates equity across the system. So while autonomy is appreciated, there people also noted there's sometimes differences between schools because of autonomy, right? So we just wanted to call that out as the nuance of the Lawrence community, same with the concept of receivership.
All right, we're just about ready to go on to the job profile, but before we do that, I'd like to thank all the members of the community that took the time to participate in this survey and to help us out in developing the job profile. So thank you for being very cooperative with us, and we truly appreciate all your comments. Okay, Sylvia?
All right. Well, hopefully you all received the job description in advance. I'm going to share my screen. So our job description, and let me see if I could zoom in. We start, of course, with an overview of the district. And then we have a brief description of the superintendent role. And then you'll see, as I mentioned, the headlines for the responsibilities and how we define those responsibilities. And then you scroll down the competencies. So what are we looking for? What does it look like in each of these descriptors? and would love to hear your feedback if you've had a chance to review it. Things that we typically ask, the signal that you send will be, are these in the right priority for you? Should relationship builder be first? Should cultural competence be first, right? Those are some of the things. Does the wording reflect your community, how you would describe these things? So want to give you all a chance to give us any feedback. We'd love to make note of any edits in real time. Our goal would be to get any edits made and sent out to you within 24 hours so that we can post this job.
All right, we'll turn it over to the board at this time. Any questions about the job profile? Any edits you'd like to see at this time? Go ahead.
I have a question.
I think we should
Others
add.
go first. No, somebody over
Edgar?
there go first. Somebody spoke.
Edgar Dolores is speaking.
I'm sorry,
Absolutely.
Edgar. I was just going to say, kidding around, but I think we are looking for a Superman or a super lady. It is a lot.
All right, Edgar?
Sorry, I had a quick question about, do we ask, and this is obviously being a part of my first search as superintendent, for minimum type of degree? And I found it interesting that there's no, and maybe I didn't see it, so I apologize.
So when you scroll to the bottom, we do have some of those minimum criteria. We didn't list a degree per se, but we're happy to do so.
My comment is more a question. It's a common practice, it's a best practice. I mean, if you mentioned putting out there getting the best folks to apply, and to me that means cultural competency, et cetera, but also means like people that know their stuff.
Right. Right.
I don't know what common practice is when it comes to superintendent stuff. I know that in other jobs it obviously is a part of it, and I just found it interesting that I was a part of this. And so it was more actually the form of the question is actually best practice. I was trying to look up other superintendent job descriptions, and some have it, some don't. I don't know what the best practice is. I do wonder if that's something that if we are looking for the best, what does that actually mean? And so that's what it out there.
What we did put here is that the person meets the eligibility criteria for a superintendent license in the state of Massachusetts. That way you go back to whatever the minimum requirement is in your state. And that might be a master's degree or an EDD in the state of Massachusetts. So that's sort of the fallback for that. Some people do say, oh, the person needs to have at least a master's degree or others. Or higher. Sometimes it's minimum bachelor and master's preferred or EDD preferred. We could certainly add that if you think it's important. We could also just link to the superintendent criteria for your state and make sure that anyone would be eligible for that if they're coming from another state. I think typically in education for a role like this, you're going to see someone who has at least a master's degree, if not an EDD or a PhD.
Right.
Pretty standard.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I was just wondering. And then the other, I mean, I have many questions, but I don't want to own the floor. But I actually think that if our teachers are saying that retention and recruitment is important, if we continue to have some trouble, recruiting teachers to come to our school system, then I believe that in developing the vision and implement the strategy to improve student outcomes and sort of the beginning parts of this person's job, there should be long-term vision about our recruiting and our retention, specifically on retention, and to the benefit of those folks that are working now in the office. I think they've been really creative in doing so and being very purposeful. I think it would be a detriment to our schools if actually at the forefront of this person's job isn't being more strategic as some of the work that Juan and his folks have been doing and others. Like if that's not in the forefront, if we don't hire good people, we're in trouble. And I believe every school system should focus on students first, but actually, I actually think putting enormous amount of capital in terms of the people that work here to then benefit our students is actually at the utmost importance. And so I know there was mention somewhere about developing the vision, implement strategy, improve student outcomes. All these things require us to get the best educators, and I
Yeah.
think it's going to require intentional planning. And to me, I think that actually should be if we're talking about order and importance and language, in my opinion, that it should be really up there. If not, we are in trouble. You can have the best plan ever. But
So would you move this entire section to like right beneath the developing the vision?
Yeah, because I think I think it lends to this idea of developing a vision. I think we need a vision in terms of our hiring and our retention, like really strategic, really purposeful in terms of what we're doing. And if we're gonna say that we want we want our students to improve, that's not a magic bus, which was a great show back longer. That it requires really good people coming and doing the work. And so
Yeah.
I think strategic planning and again, I think folks are doing it now. And so
Right.
I think it has to be in the forefront of what's going on, what this next person has to do. That's my opinion. I'm not saying to change it, but I think other people can comment. So.
Again, this is the important context as we're talking to candidates that people need to hear. Curious if anyone has any feedback or concerns with us elevating that particular responsibility area to the second priority.
Yes, and let me see if I understood what Edgar was saying, but it makes sense, the same way that we're looking at priorities, right? That was highlighted by this process that is so thorough. Maybe the order of priorities should be presented, and I think that's what you were addressing, Edgar, right?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, thank you.
and that
That's
makes
exactly-
sense. I mean, I didn't got it at the beginning because I didn't have the detail of this report, but yes, that makes sense. And I think it's important to be somebody who has worked with the community. I mean, we have had experiences where we had people from other places and they have no clue about Lawrence. And so it takes a while to learn, the ins and outs. I mean, when I moved here to Lawrence, I had to learn everything in the context of this community. And I think that is key for
I think-
this person.
Definitely.
Ideally, if it's somebody from the area, wow, that is bilingual, Latino, oye, that would be perfect.
Or at least someone like that has worked in an urban setting with a large, diversity that, you're coming from a community that is not accustomed to, the dense population that we have here of different, nationalities, primarily Latinx, but, definitely somebody in that's accustomed to an urban setting.
Any further discussion?
And to, I believe it was Board Member Dolores's point, yes. It is not to say that all of these things aren't important, just as we're communicating, we want to say strategy is next. The people who are going to be executing and implementing the strategy might be the next priority. We want all of these things for sure. That's how we'll be screening and designing our selection process, but we definitely want to emphasize kind of the level of importance that each of these represent.
All right, are we all set? Edgar? All right, at this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the superintendent job profile with the edits.
So moved.
Thank you. Could we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Maria, please call the roll.
Dr. Dolores Calaf,
Yes.
Edgar de Leon,
Yes.
Arlene Garcia,
Yes.
Juana Matias,
Yes.
Chair Patricia Mariano.
Yes. Motion passes. Sylvia and Eliana, thank you for your reports and the time you've spent with us. We look forward to the next phase of our search with you. And we'll have
We do
that.
too. Now the excitement begins.
Hey, guys.
Just so you know, I am at a national conference of superintendents in San Diego, California right now. So my networking starts tomorrow morning in person.
Thank you.
Great timing.
Yes. So we will quickly get this posted and we will be back in touch to report back to you all in a few weeks. Thank you so much for your time and for your attention tonight.
Thank you.
And thank you for the
Sylvia
great
and
questions.
Eliana. Good night.
Thank you.
For our viewing audience, these documents will be posted on the superintendent's webpage on the Lawrence Public Schools website. Moving on with the agenda. Last October, the superintendent presented his goals for the 23-24 school year. We approved the goals but neglected to take a formal vote. So in order to keep the evaluation timeline on schedule, I would like a motion to approve the superintendent's goals for the 23/24 school year.
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Maria, please call the roll.
Dr. Dolores Calaf,
Yes.
Edgar de Leon,
Yes.
Arlene Garcia,
Yes.
Juana Matias,
Yes.
Chair Patricia Mariano.
Yes. Thank you. Next, I'd like a motion to approve the minutes of the January 10th meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Aye.
Second.
Thank you. Maria, please call the roll.
Dr. Dolores Calaf,
Yes.
Edgar de Leon,
Yes.
Arlene Garcia,
Yes.
Juana Matias,
Yes.
Chair Patricia Mariano.
Yes. Next, I'd like to have a motion to table the SOA presentation until our March 13th meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Maria, please call the roll.
Dr. Dolores Calaf,
Yes.
Edgar de Leon,
Yes.
Arlene Garcia,
Yes.
Juana Matias,
Yes.
Chair Patricia Mariano.
Yes. And finally, I'd like to have a motion to table the school quality review update until our March 13th meeting.
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Yes.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, Maria, please call the roll.
Dr. Dolores Calaf,
Yes.
Edgar de Leon,
Yes.
Arlene Garcia,
Yes.
Juana Matias,
Yes.
Chair Patricia Mariano.
Yes. And at this time, I'll turn the meeting over to Superintendent Rodriguez for his reports.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Appreciate that. First on our report tonight is a quick vote on extraordinary maintenance waivers that we have sent to the board regarding facilities projects. Now, we have sent you a numerous number of proposed projects. However, tonight, we are only looking for a vote to approve the district to send a request for extraordinary maintenance waivers to the Commissioner's Office for the fire alarm system here at the South Lawrence East, the fire alarm system at the Arlington School Complex, and also the safety vestibule redesign at Lawrence High School. The amounts for these projects are as follows. The fire alarm system here at the South Lawrence East would be $550,000. The fire alarm system at the Arlington School would also be $550,000. And the cost for the safety vestibule redesign at Lawrence High School would be $250,000. So we are looking for tonight a vote in favor to allow the district to send these extraordinary maintenance waivers to DESE for approval so that we can move forward on these much-needed projects. And at this time, if any members have any questions about these specific projects, I'd be glad to answer them.
Questions?
Superintendent, okay, so I'm assuming that there is funding to all of this, right?
Absolutely.
So what percentage are we talking that this will, is needed?
The total number, the total cost for all the projects listed is in the area of $5.6 million. However, tonight, we're only looking for approval for approximately $1.35 million.
Okay,
$1.1 million for the two fire alarm systems at the here at the SLE and at the Arlington School, and $250,000 for the safety vestibule redesign at the main entrance at Lawrence High School.
because these are priorities.
Yeah, these are obviously, South Lawrence East and Arlington are in good shape. However, they are, 30, 35 years old at this point. Fire alarm systems are antiquated and in need of replacement. And this has been a recommendation of both the school department and the fire department to make sure that these fire alarm systems
Okay.
are functioning properly.
Got it. Thank you.
Any further questions? Hearing none, could I have a motion to approve the extraordinary maintenance waiver?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Maria, please call the roll.
Dr. Dolores Calaf,
Yes.
Edgar de Leon,
Yes.
Arlene Garcia,
Yes.
Juana Matias,
Yes.
Chair Patricia Mariano.
Yes. Motion passes. Superintendent?
We thank the board for that favorable vote. And at this time, we are going to welcome our LPAC officers who have waited patiently to present to the board the work that they have been doing on behalf of multilingual students and multilingual families here in the Lawrence Public Schools. So we would be glad to welcome them to the podium. We are also going to get them an additional microphone. And also, if they need Ms. Caceres for interpretation, she will be joining them. So welcome.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Natalia Durán, actualmente secretaria del PAC.
Good evening, my name is Natalia Duran. ¿Qué es lo que ustedes disculpen? Secretary of the LPAC.
Es un placer estar aquí para presentarle brevemente en qué consiste el PAC.
It's a pleasure being here to explain briefly what this LPAC consists of.
Próximo slide. Según vemos como sus orígenes, el PAC comienza desde la ley LUC, mediante firmada en el año 2017.
And as it shows, it has been started by the Look Act, which started in qué año? 2017, sorry.
La ley LUC requiere que los distritos escolares y las escuelas charters
The Look Act requires school districts and charter schools
establezcan un LPAC cuando ofrezcan servicio a por lo menos 100 estudiantes identificados como aprendices de inglés.
to establish an LPAC when they provide service to at least 100 students identified as English learners,
O cuando la cantidad de dichos estudiantes representen por lo menos el 5% de su población estudiantil.
or where the number of such students represents at least 5% of their student population.
El PAC del Distrito de las Escuelas Públicas de Loren tiene como objetivos fundamentales
The LPAC has as fundamental priorities
asesorar al distrito en asuntos relacionados con los estudiantes aprendices de inglés
to advise the district on issues related to English learner students
e identificar y recoger las inquietudes de sus padres.
and to identify and collect concerns from their parents.
Gracias al apoyo del superintendente aquí presente interino, el señor Juan Rodríguez,
With the support of Interim Superintendent Rodriguez
y de algunos miembros del personal del distrito,
and some district staff,
el EPA ha logrado consolidarse y adquirir el grado de autonomía necesaria
LPAC has been able to consolidate and acquire the degree of autonomy
para comenzar a funcionar bajo la dirección de padres de estudiantes aprendices de inglés.
to begin moving in the direction set forth for parents and students that are learning English,
Como también convertirse en la única organización en el ámbito de las escuelas públicas de Lawrence
and also become the only organization or group in the LPS
dirigido por padres para padres que recoge y canaliza sus voces.
directed by parents for parents that collects and channels their voices,
De igual manera, elaborar y actualizar sus estatutos.
and at the same time elaborate and update by the laws.
También el PAD ha organizado y dirigido reuniones y eventos para los padres de los aprendices de inglés.
LPAC has also organized and directed meetings for parents of English language learners,
Ha organizado y dirigido sus elecciones.
has organized and conducted their elections,
Ha coorganizado un taller acerca de los derechos de los estudiantes y de sus padres,
has co-organized a workshop about the rights of the students and their parents,
entre otras actividades.
among other activities.
Ahora le voy a dejar con Catherine Martínez para seguir con las funciones de LPAC.
Now, Catherine Martinez will be speaking about the role of LPAC.
Buenas noches, miembros del LAE Board y los demás aquí presentes.
Good evening to the LAE Board and everybody else that is present.
Como indicaba mi compañera, las reuniones de LPAC se efectúan mensualmente. Por lo general lo hacemos el tercer miércoles de cada mes.
As the partner had mentioned, the LPAC meetings are held monthly, usually on the third Wednesday of each month.
Lo hacemos en persona en el North Common Educational Complex, en el 233 de la Haber Street, a las 7 p.m.
We normally do it in person at the North Common Educational Complex at 233 Haverhill Street at 7 p.m.
El PAC también organiza y dirige reuniones con los padres y tutores de los estudiantes identificados como aprendices en inglés.
LPAC also organizes and conducts meetings with parents and guardians of students identified as English learners.
En estas reuniones con el LPAC, los padres reciben información y expresan sus inquietudes.
At these meetings with LPAC, parents receive information and express their concerns.
Estas reuniones han sido denominadas como LPAC con los padres y se realiza cada 2 meses, un miércoles a las 6 p.m., en persona o a través de Zoom.
These meetings have been named LPAC with parents and are held every other month on a Wednesday at 6 p.m. in person or via Zoom.
Las reuniones y eventos organizados por LPAC se desarrollan en español o inglés, con interpretación a otros idiomas, según la preferencia de los padres participantes.
The meetings and events organized by LPAC are conducted in Spanish or English with interpretation into other languages depending on the preference of the participating parents.
Padres que hablan creol y francés han participado en las reuniones y eventos organizados por LPAC.
Creole and French-speaking parents have participated in LPAC meetings and the events.
Nosotros, LPAC, estamos muy orgullosos, ya que en nuestra última reunión participaron alrededor de 335 padres en diferentes horarios.
We have been very proud because 335 parents and guardians have attended to our last LPAC parent meetings.
Estos padres se sintieron muy a gusto y hicieron preguntas que favorecían lo que es el conocimiento de sus derechos.
These parents were very happy and they made questions about what it was to participate in expressing their concerns.
En estos momentos, el PAC trabaja en la redacción de varias recomendaciones basadas en las necesidades y preocupaciones que se han identificado en las interacciones con los padres.
LPAC is currently working on drafting various recommendations based on the needs and concerns it has identified in its meetings and interactions with parents.
El PAC está también promoviendo la importancia de que nosotros los padres nos organicemos para que podamos colaborar mejor con las escuelas y participar de manera más eficiente en el proceso educativo de nuestros estudiantes.
LPAC is also promoting the importance of parents organizing themselves so that they can better collaborate with the schools and participate more effectively in the educational process of the students.
Nosotros, el PAC, estamos integrados por la señora Natalia Durán Rosa, la señora Cecilia Rosario, la señora Encela Martínez, la señora Yumilka Ramírez, el señor Ismael Rondón y esta servidora, Catherine Martínez.
LPAC is integrated by the following parents: Ms. Natalia Duran Rosa, Ms. Cecilia Rosario, Ms. Encella Martinez, Ms. Yumilka Ramirez, Mr. Israel Rondon, and myself, Catherine Martinez.
El PAC también tiene contactos de información. Se pueden comunicar al 978-494-4091 y nuestro email es lpaclawrence@gmail.com.
LPAC has contact information. Also, you can contact us at 978-494-4091, and our email is lpaclawrence@gmail.com.
Ahora los dejo con nuestro presidente, el señor Ismael Rondón, para cualquier pregunta que deseen hacer. Muchas gracias.
Now I will leave our president, Mr. Ismael Rondon, for any questions that you might have.
Again, we want to congratulate the LPAC for their successful autonomy in running their own meetings and successfully getting parent involvement. And we wanted to open it up to any of the board members who had specific questions for all of the LPAC board members who have worked so hard to make this family community group a success. So queremos felicitar a los miembros de LPAC para su trabajo duro, para tener un grupo autónomo, trabajando duro para los intereses de los alumnos y los padres de las escuelas públicas de Lawrence. Y queríamos abrir a preguntas de los miembros del consejo, si tienen preguntas para los miembros del LPAC.
Dolores?
Yes, again, congratulations for putting the time. Felicidades por poner el tiempo tan importante para sus hijos. Given what you heard tonight, in terms of the response from surveys and meetings and interviews, what would you say? I mean, is this things that have come out in your meetings? Is it connected? La pregunta es, ¿entendiste, Ismael?
I interpreted to them in Spanish.
Muchas gracias, doctora Calá, por su pregunta. Para confirmar, ¿usted se refiere a lo relativo a la búsqueda del próximo superintendente?
Sí, exacto.
Mr. Rondon wants to know if her question is about the superintendent's search. And she said exactly.
Sí, ha salido en nuestras reuniones. De hecho, también nosotros tuvimos contacto con el grupo ALMA y le expresamos nuestras inquietudes e ideas con relación al asunto.
So they were able to get in contact with the ALMA team, and they were able to provide them with the concerns and comments.
Uno de los puntos más importantes que les planteamos es que deseamos que el próximo superintendente continúe proveyendo los recursos y el apoyo necesario para que el PAC continúe moviéndose hacia adelante de acuerdo a lo establecido en la ley LOC y también a la guía para los LPAC del DC.
One of the most important points that they spoke about was that the new superintendent continues providing the resources that are necessary to support the LPAC to continue with the Look Act and then their needs.
Y le planteamos que en nuestra interacción con los padres, como bien lo señalaba la señora Martínez, hemos identificado algunas necesidades y una de ellas es el apoyo para que los padres puedan organizarse y colaborar mejor con las escuelas públicas y participar en el proceso educativo de sus estudiantes. Es fundamental que ayudemos a los padres a que ellos sean quienes traten de luchar por una mejor educación para sus hijos. No que otras personas lo hagan por ellos, sino que les demos la capacidad para que ellos, que son los más interesados, sean quienes luchen también por una mejor educación o una educación de calidad para sus hijos.
One of the topics that was discussed is also that the parents that we meet and that are available to collaborate with their students' education and what for them to provide opinions within their education, not that somebody else decides that for them, but they also form part of what is within their education and what their needs are in school.
Warner?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Gracias. Me encanta, me fascina. I'm so excited, fascinated by the fact that you guys exist, que ustedes existen. He visto en otro distrito cómo los padres son los que llevan a cabo a poder asegurarse que sus hijos tengan la mejor educación. So, para mí es excelente noticia saber que los tenemos a ustedes localmente, escuchar que lo estamos apoyando. Me encantaría, no sé, Superintendent Juan, are we providing any financial resources to continue to support LPAC? Y mi última pregunta sería para ustedes, ¿qué es su agenda ahora mismo? ¿Qué son las prioridades que ustedes tienen? A mí me encantaría saberlas para nosotros como el LAE Board en conjunción con ustedes, poder trabajar juntos, ¿verdad? So, si ustedes están escuchando algunas inquietudes de padres o de estudiantes que nosotros como LAE Board debemos saber, nos interesa tener más comunicación con ustedes para asegurar que estamos trabajando unidos, ¿verdad? Con el mismo propósito que es llevar nuestras escuelas públicas al nivel que tienen para que nuestros hijos echen para adelante. Gracias.
Thank you, Ms. Matias. I think, as Mr. Rondon referred to earlier, he referred to the LPAC guidebook put out by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And in that guidebook, it does have suggested roles for the school district, how to assist LPAC. Some of those include helping LPAC send out communications to families through district communication methods. Also, providing a location for a meeting, also providing light beverages and refreshments. And as I believe Ms. Martinez said, also looking for low incident translation when it is requested, and we have done so as well. So usually what happens is the LPAC members will email the superintendent's office approximately 2 weeks before meeting and just make a request for the meeting. Can we use North Commons? Is it available at this time? Yes, it's available. We need 10 tables or 15 tables. Okay, we'll set that up. And we did get a request for a Brazilian Portuguese translator for this meeting. So those are the type of possible assistance that we offer upon request to LPAC so that they can function effectively. So, refiriendo a la pregunta, señor Matías, como el señor Rondón mencionó, hay una guía que el Departamento de Educación distribuye a las comunidades para asegurar que grupos como LPAC tienen apoyo del distrito que es necesario. En esa guía hay sugerencias sobre cómo ayudar a LPAC con comunicaciones a familias, por ejemplo, o asegurando que hay lugares para sus reuniones y asegurando que hay sillas, mesas, cosas, etcétera. Y en el caso de nuestro LPAC, los miembros del consejo de LPAC mandan comunicación a la oficina del superintendente, usualmente 2 semanas antes de sus reuniones, para asegurar que el lugar, el tiempo, hay espacio para la entrevista y qué son las cosas que necesitan, café, agua, cosas como eso.
Arlene, do you have any?
No questions.
Congratulations on having over 300 people at a meeting. That's incredible.
That's quite
That is so wonderful. Thank you so much for everything you're doing for the district.
Muchísimas gracias por todo lo que hacen por el distrito.
Sí, gracias a ustedes y es un dato al final para señalar, debido a lo que señalamos anteriormente, esos hechos revelan que el PAC del distrito de las escuelas públicas de Loren, si no es el más avanzado y exitoso de todo el estado, es uno de los más avanzados y exitosos de todo el estado. Y además que funciona de acuerdo a lo establecido en la ley y de acuerdo a lo establecido en las guías del DC elaborada para el PAC. Ese es el punto luminoso aquí, que funciona de acuerdo a lo que está establecido, como debería funcionar.
And one of the last comments is that the LPAC is one of the most advanced or more successful in the state. If not the most, it would be one of the most, and it's also established by the DESI laws and the guidelines that are necessary, and that's one of the highlights, that it is established through the laws that are required.
Thank you.
Lo más importante que revela el hecho que llama mucho la atención, que es la participación, no solamente la asistencia, el padre participa, pregunta, que es lo más importante, y expresa sus preocupaciones. Y esa cantidad revela que sí, que los padres en Lawrence, los padres de las escuelas públicas, quieren participar, están deseosos de participar. Más adelante tendremos que continuar hablando sobre esto para ver cómo seguimos progresando, cómo seguimos avanzando, todos juntos, ustedes, nosotros y el liderazgo de las escuelas públicas también.
One of the things that you highlighted was their attendance. Not only are they attending these meetings, but they are participating, they're sharing their concerns, they're speaking up. And it is a great progress, which we hope to continue progressing, and that this would be a topic of conversation that we can revisit in the future and see how we can collaborate, all of us, the parents and the Lawrence Public Schools leads.
I think, just to add on to what my friend Ishmael said, I think it's a terrific example of good governance, good legislation, the signing of good legislation by the governor, strong guidance from the Department of Education on how districts can support parents, motivated parents, reading guidance documents, taking action, and like Ishmael said, advocating for their students and adding thoughts, not just going, but actually participating. So, quería añadir que, algunos comentarios sobre que dijo mi amigo Ismael, que este es un ejemplo bueno de fuerte legislación en parte del gobierno, también la firma de la ley del parte del gobernador y también fuertes guianzas o fuertes consejos del Departamento del Estado para sugerencias para los distritos, cómo apoyar explícitamente, con ejemplos explícitos. Estos son ejemplos como ustedes pueden apoyar a padres en este trabajo y también padres motivados leyendo la ley, leyendo las sugerencias y también yendo a estas reuniones y participando en una manera auténtica. Otra vez queremos decir gracias a ustedes para todo su trabajo duro en parte de la población en la ciudad de Lawrence.
Juana, I see your hand up.
No, I think that was applaud, or let me just put that down.
Okay, Edgar, do you have anything to say?
No, just thanking them for all their work. Thank you.
Again, we thank the LPAC
Thank you.
officers very much. At this time, we're going to move on quickly down our agenda to our quick Acceleration Academy update. We're going to ask Mr. Ritzer Francisco from the Office of Curriculum and Instruction just to give the board a quick update of what's going to be happening next week. Even though we do have school vacation, there's going to be a lot of happy kids learning across the district. So we'll turn it over to you, Ritzer. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, members of the LAE Board and others joining us today. My name is Ritzer Francisco, and as Superintendent Rodriguez mentioned, I will be providing an update on Acceleration Academy. So, as you know, Acceleration Academy provides opportunities, an opportunity to our students to receive at least 20 hours of additional instructions in a given subject, and for February it would be ELA. And this would be during the week of February vacation and April vacation. This adds to more hours of instruction in a core subject than a student gets in a typical month of school. Some key goals for this upcoming Acceleration Academy are to refocus on the original rationale of Acceleration Academy, which is to select students for high-impact instruction by talented teachers, our most talented teachers here at Lawrence Public Schools. We want to renew our focus on acceleration, not remediation. And we want to use this as a vehicle to provide our students with our most high-quality, high-impact instruction. We want to build teacher capacity through district and DESE PD. And we require licensure through district, licensure and lesson plans for our teachers, those who will be teaching during that week. We are providing, another goal is to provide professional learning to math and literacy instructional leaders on planning targeted standards-aligned programming. And so we want to ensure that our instructional leaders, our school principals, are selecting students using data so that we are serving those students that most would benefit most from an additional 20 hours of instructions. And we want to measure impact of Acceleration Academy through assessment. So we want to look at upcoming or future assessment data, such as from DIBELS or MCAS, MAP scores. And an example of a target outcome would be, let's say, ELA, kindergarten through third grade. We want to look at or see an 80% of participating students will earn an average growth or higher on end-of-year DIBELS. So 80% of participating students will earn an average growth or higher. And then some of our program logistics, what the upcoming Acceleration Week will look like. We're holding it Tuesday through Friday, and this looks different from previous years because it would be a Monday through Friday week, but because historically we've seen that on Mondays we typically don't get as great attendance outcomes, so we've decided that it would be best to shorten the week, and the same would go for April. We are looking at targeted small group instructions, and we will have social emotional support, and then enrichment will also be provided. There are some daily motivational incentives that are part of this week. Helps to motivate our kids to attend and look forward to being there. I mean, they already look forward to being there, but it's an added bonus. And then transportation is provided to those who receive transportation during the school year. We also have a north and south bus for the high school students. So this gives students an opportunity to get to school on time and safely through our transportation at Lawrence Public Schools. This is what our staffing will look like in February. So we have 133 staff teachers are joining us. There's 43 paraprofessionals, 19 social emotional support staff, 24 clerks, 16 nurses, and 25 program facilitators. And would be the total. And this is an example of student schedules. So for example, in elementary school, their day would start at 7:30, 8, and they would get their breakfast. Could be a morning meeting. Then from 8:30 to 10:30, they receive literacy instructions, then specials. They do get lunch and recess, and also then after that, they continue their learning, and then a closeout or extra movement activity could be part of their day. And as you know, we are currently in the process of writing the proposal for the Student Opportunity Act. With that in mind, we want to continue to support and expand robust acceleration opportunities for our students, and we hope to use funding from the SOA to assist in that. We want to implement academic intervention and acceleration opportunities targeting students groups that demonstrate largest gaps in achievement, and we hope that using future funds from the SOA could assist in ensuring that our students that would most benefit get that, continue to receive that. This concludes my update from Acceleration. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Jaritza. Again, this does represent a significant investment by the city and the school department in accelerating learning for a lot of our students, not just in transportation, but also staffing, and also incentives for kids to attend. So it has been, will continue to be a significant investment by the district because we do feel that additional learning time is important for some of our learners. So at this point, if anybody from the board has any questions for Jaritza, we open it up at this point.
Could I ask one question? How many students are in each group? What would be your max?
So right now we anticipate 1,400. So like in each group in class, so 10 to 12 students per class.
Okay.
I know this is not part of your question, but we anticipate about 1,400 students throughout the whole district to attend.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions of the board?
And I just a follow-up, is the 1,400, this is optional program for those students, or is it both where the, educators say you should probably do this, et cetera? How do we choose students to
We try to generate excitement at the school level, might do in assemblies, have special golden tickets for the kids, offering some fun electives during the week. So, it is recommended, but of course, it's not obligatory. But we do try to make it as, as attractive and exciting as possible, so the kids don't feel like they're just going to sit and do worksheets for the week. Edgar, we want to make sure that they're doing project-based learning as well as other things that are at grade level that's going to accelerate their academics, but also that's not going to be something boring for them. I don't know, Jaritza has been part of this for several years, mostly at the high school level with us for 9th and 10th graders, but also upper schools. So if you want to also comment on how we would excite the older kids to come.
Yeah, I have experience from the high school level, and we would always have conversations with them about how important it is and the benefits of attending. At the high school level, some students did utilize, or the benefit of acceleration was that we would offer credit recovery. That has since changed a little bit this year, where they have their own, credit recovery is separate from Acceleration Academy, but our students were excited to utilize that week as a means of getting additional instructions or potentially earning additional credit that would go towards their graduation. But I know that this year I've had conversations with different facilitators, and they have mentioned that students look forward to attending, even outside of the incentives that are happening, especially our elementary and middle school students. They look forward to having that additional week, and the fact that it's a much smaller group, I think that provides them with the ability to really, not that they don't know their teachers well or other students, but it's a more, what's the word? I guess.
Personalized, right?
Personal, yeah, like more, like it's, they get more one-on-one time in that sense.
Any more
Thank you,
questions?
thank you for the clarity, because I knew, I was figuring out the credit recovery piece versus that. The last question I had is actually about the lesson planning itself. Are teachers given lesson plans, or are they able to create in terms of, do they have the autonomy to create? And obviously, given the goals of the programming to improve MCAS scores, et cetera, what's that process like in terms of ensuring that lesson plans actually lead to the ultimate goal of the program?
Yeah, so they get to meet with their instructional leaders in their schools, and through those meetings, they get to review their lesson plans and ensure that they meet our standards through a standards aligned, our standards aligned. We also had a DESI PD about 2 weeks ago that provided educators with more information on what to look for, just how to best create their lesson plans to meet those standards and to touch base on the different information that the students would benefit from, like, and get, let's say, whether it's for this, in this case, it would be ELA.
I think, too, the district about 18 months ago wanted to make sure that we were kind of coming back to the true rationale for Acceleration Academy, Edgar. So we did start moving away from a credit recovery model. There was an instructional vision written by Dr. Spash's office and the curriculum instruction office for what we were supposed to be doing during this week. This year, we are running credit recovery opportunities at the high school level for students, but those are being run separately. So those will be run by teachers working with students. If you missed 3 assignments, they're going to work on those assignments to resubmit, so they'll get time to redo and resubmit work, as well as recovering seat time, while the other students selected for Acceleration Academy are going to be focusing solely on making sure that they do well on MCAS so that they don't have to retest. And also, as Daritza said earlier, we're going to be tracking their results to make sure, like, these students, these 125 students who attended Acceleration Academy in 10th grade, what was their MCAS score, what was their growth compared to students who didn't participate, to make sure that we do have metrics that say this is working and it is an effective intervention for students.
Thank you.
All set? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daritza. Great job, as always.
Thank you.
Dave, I think if you can just pull up the district update, and we will go through the district update that we have for you. So as always, just wanted to update you on some exciting, important things happening around the district since our last meeting. We have a picture on the far left of some youngsters over at the Bruce School during their school dance a couple weeks ago on a Friday night, early afternoon Friday. A few weeks ago. In the center, you have Marlon and Kyra with students from the Partha Middle who are participating in the Girls in Sports celebration a couple weeks ago at Lawrence High School. And then we have Elena Guzman, who was one of our Artists of the Week, with her beautiful alligator there. And we're looking forward to going to talk to her over at the Oliver School after February break to talk about her artwork. Next slide, Dave. We do want to update the board that our almost 6,000 students who are classified as multilingual are still hard at work on Access. They have to take Access in 4 domains, the listening, speaking, reading, and writing domains, and they will get an overall score on Access. The Access testing window was set to close on Friday, but it has been extended to after February break so that all students across the Commonwealth can make sure that they complete this. Next slide, Dave. We wanted to say, first of all, and as many of you know, that our wonderful Deputy Superintendent, Melissa Spash, was unanimously selected to serve as Superintendent of Schools in Natick, starting on July 1st. A tremendous honor, as it was a very, very rigorous process that Dr. Spash was involved with. You know, we all want to, again, give Melissa tremendous thanks for her exemplary service to the Lawrence Public Schools as a teacher, a principal at the middle and high school levels, in her work as assistant superintendent and deputy superintendent over the past 14 years. Job well done, Melissa. We appreciate you and we congratulate you on your accomplishments. Some cool building project updates. If you haven't driven past the LAE site, I encourage you to do so. Major progress, again, at both sites, but the LAE progress seems like it's just sprouting. Structural steel is far past 50% completion at the LAE site, where we also videotaped our LPS winter update that should be coming out soon. At the Oliver site as well, work is also ongoing. The construction crane has actually been dismantled because it's no longer needed. The steel work has been completed. The building has been tarped so they can start working on the inside sections of the building.
Nice.
Amazing. LFPA update, Lawrence Family Public Academy. In January, there was a boiler issue at LFA that necessitated school closure on the 12th, 18th, and the 19th. We thank the folks over there at the Archdiocese for getting a new boiler and replacing it so quickly. Our students only missed 3 days of school, which was tremendous work on their part to get the boiler in and assembled so quickly. Again, the LFA has pre-K and also kindergarten students. DESE policy for kindergarten hours, that they consider 425 hours of learning time acceptable for kindergarten students. So kindergarten students at LFPA were scheduled to get 1,240 hours of instructional time. So even with those 3 days of closure, the 21 hours of lost learning time, the kindergarten students over at LFA are still getting 1,219 hours of structured learning time, which far exceeds the required 425 hours. So they are not going to be required to make up those 3 days, as they already exceed the learning time extensively. We had an internet safety presentation by our SRO unit over at the Leonard School on January 17th, when the Leonard hosted their potluck dinner. Officer Hendrick attended, gave the students and families a presentation on social media and internet safety. In addition, there was food, music, fun, cool selfie station. You see Officer Hendrick, myself, and Mr. Acosta having fun at the selfie station. Tremendous asset, our SRO unit, in various ways. One of the services that they provide is education to students and families, and Officer Hendrick did a great job over at the Leonard. Next slide, please, Dave. Mass College Acceptance Celebration over at HLC. Our partners at Gear Up Massachusetts were over at HLC on January 17th to help their students with their college applications. Massachusetts College Application Celebration events have occurred since 2012, and overall, Gear Up has helped over 460 LPS seniors complete college applications. Gear Up has just been a tremendous partner of ours for many years. They really don't get a lot of credit. They move under the radar, very humble folks, but they do tremendous work on the part of our seniors, and we really appreciate what they do for us. We've also continued our collaboration with the Lawrence Teachers Union. We were grateful to get an invitation from the LTU for several different district staff members to attend the Center for School Improvement Leadership Institute on January 18th, 19th, and 20th. The focus of this institute was providing course pathways for students that lead to college and career readiness, along with conversations on how to increase vocational education opportunities for our kids. I was able to attend, again, with several members of the LTU and also several district staff members, and we were able to learn a lot and got a lot of information on career and tech ed from the folks in New York and from the American Federation of Teachers. Next slide, Dave. Luis Salgado has been working with LHS Theater. Noted choreographer and director Luis Salgado worked with LHS Theater in late January. He worked on scenes and student body movement. They worked on that with Mr. Salgado. And the theater group is hard at work, and they are going to be putting on a presentation very soon, less than 2 months, I think, at this point, and it's really going to be a tremendous show. So we're looking forward to their next presentation. We worked with our good friends over at GLTS on a presentation for our families. On January 24th, Lawrence Public Library hosted GLTS, and our friends Betsy, Brenda, and Susan from GLTS were able to present to our middle school families about general application information, as well as more specific information about, which shops and which career and tech ed opportunities our kids can take advantage of if they attend GLTS. And we're also able to talk to our families about our partnership in the After Dark program, so that if students don't get accepted out of 8th grade, they can also join GLTS as part of Lawrence High School and get their career and tech ed vocational certificate as well. Across the district, schools are celebrating Black History Month. Our schools continue to recognize and celebrate Black history throughout the month of February. They're doing this in a variety of ways: history projects, presentations, artwork, literature that features Black authors and subjects, and you'll see their presentations across the district anywhere that you go. This was really a great collaboration between folks in the district and some members of the community. National Girls and Women in Sports Day. This is an annual observance held during the first week in February. Sports celebrations are held across the country. Working with Everyone's a Player, Michelle Adamic, and also Alicia Miller of the Mayor's Health Task Force, our folks in LPS, specifically Joe Petrosino, Brendan Nealon, our Director of Communications, Mr. Markins, and several other folks worked on coordinating events with our Chief Operating Officer, Adonis Hernandez, to have clinics on basketball, soccer, volleyball, swimming, and floor hockey. On Saturday, February the 3rd, the Junior Celtics Academy actually came to Lawrence High School and held a basketball clinic at the high school. And we were able to have a lot of young ladies attend because they are there weekly for intramurals. So because of our partnership with the Play Ball Foundation that gives us funding to run these intramural programs, we had a really captive audience there, and we had a really good clinic on that Saturday. Our middle school theater festival was actually this past weekend, and we had performances by the Arlington Middle School doing Finding Nemo, the Oliver Middle School doing The Little Mermaid, Spark Academy doing Beauty and the Beast, the Gilmet Middle School, which I was able to see, took a picture of, doing The Addams Family, the Partha Middle School performing Willy Wonka, and the Weatherby School doing Matilda. So our middle school students are not just doing intramurals, but they're also doing enrichment and extracurricular things like theater, which are important for them as well. Really great news for the football program at Lawrence High School. We mentioned about 2 months ago that Coach Outdate was leaving the LHS football program. We thanked him for his hard work. And our athletic department recently conducted interviews and screenings for the next head coach of Lawrence High School football. The interview and selection process took 2 weeks, and we were able to identify Emilio Colon to be the next Lancer head coach. Multiple reasons why we're very excited about this. One of them is that he's a 1990 graduate. Second one, he's a LHS Hall of Famer. And he was also an All-American football player playing quarterback at the University of Maine and has a ton of coaching experience in the area. So we're really looking forward to next year, and we're really thankful that Emilio was looking forward and applied for the position. We had Celtics superstar Al Horford visit the Bruce School last week, or a week and a half ago, I believe. So Al Horford and Melissa Valdez from the Boston Celtics visited the students at the Bruce School on February 5th. Al spoke about his experience moving to the U.S. from Puerto Plata and the importance of teamwork in his life. Melissa is the Celtics in-arena host, and she spoke about representation and her experiences from when she moved to the U.S. I believe she came from the capital, Santo Domingo, in the Dominican Republic. And the kids had a great time asking questions. They also had a couple of shooting contests and dancing challenges to be able to win autographed sneakers and also took tickets to the Celtics game. Celebrating our seniors, our basketball team has recently celebrated our seniors. We want to congratulate Igor, Joendi, Obi, Adriel, and Jaden from the boys team on their senior night last week on Tuesday. And going on probably already, but Kelsey, Savannah, Ariana, and Jaylana from the girls squad were celebrated tonight around 6:30. So we don't have a picture of their ceremony, so we put in a picture that we got from Mobile Magic from Brian, who does photography for our students. But we did want to congratulate all those seniors on their hard work and the success this year. Last Friday night, we were right here for the South Lawrence East Sweetheart Dance. SLE hosted their annual Sweetheart Dance right downstairs in the cafeteria. Students were dancing along to the Cha-Cha Slide, Macarena, and other fun songs that they were pumping through the sound system. I wanted to say special thanks to my friend Chris Halase and Jamira Figueroa for taking pictures with my daughter who came with me. Fun fact, I was able to introduce my daughter to Jamira, and I told her that when my daughter was born, almost 11 years ago to this date, Jamira's mom was actually working at Lawrence General Hospital that night and was one of the people who helped us while my daughter was on her way. So her and Jamira had fun and were laughing about it, and just good to have all these connections. Of course, our superstars in LHS cheer continue their activities. They were down in Florida representing us at the National High School cheerleading competitions. They traveled to Disney and competed in Orlando, and they are back now. They will be in action again this weekend at Milford High School in Massachusetts for Massachusetts competitions, but congratulations to them. And that is it for our district update. If you had any questions on our district update, be glad to take those now, but just again, some snapshots of our wonderful kids doing wonderful things, not just here, but in different parts of the country.
Any questions from the board?
No questions.
Edgar? Juana? Well, I want to thank you for that presentation, Superintendent. It's exciting to see what all our kids are doing and how they're blossoming here at Lawrence High School and throughout the district.
Yeah, no,
So
they're
thank you.
doing great at all levels, really happy to be able to celebrate them, and of course, you know, the hard work that their teachers and their families are doing to support them in their endeavors, so.
All right, is there anything else anybody would like to add? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn with the next anticipated LAE Board Meeting scheduled for March 13th, 2024.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Edgar. Maria, please call the roll.
Yes. Dolores Calaf,
Yes.
Edgar de Leon,
Yes.
Arlene Garcia,
Yes.
Juana Matias, Chair Patricia Mariano. Motion carries.